Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. If you saw part one of this top 100, go ahead and skip to this time marker right here. If you didn't see part one, let me give you the rundown on what we're doing. In December, I filmed a top 10 video, like top 10 for life video. And in that video, I asked the audience, would you like to see a top 100? Some said yes. Some said, that's a little bit much. Can we just do a top 50? So I decided to do both and film a part one and a part two to this video. This is part two. This is not numbers 50 through 100 though, in that I can't rank these. It was hard enough just for me to go through my collection and like on gut visceral reaction, either include fragrances on the list or not. And if you saw part one's introduction, I talked about the fragrances treating me like that Meredith Grey from Grey's Anatomy saying, love me, choose me, pick me. I felt like I was betraying fragrances, not putting them on the list. So it was all I could do to just name 100. And what I wasn't able to do is to rank them for you. So these are in no particular order. These are just the second 50 that I want to share in this part two. So as I said in part one, these are in no particular order. They're not arranged by houses, olfactive families, nothing. And in the interest of time, because I'm going to be talking about 50, I'll go through these as quickly as possible. I'm just going to share the general accords that come up for me. If there's a note that stands out, I will share that. And if there's a memory association, I will share that as well. So first up is one that my husband absolutely adores on me. In addition to Alien and Narciso that I talked about in the first video, this is from Tocca. It's called Florence. And this one he calls a very romantic, ladylike fragrance on me. Love the bottle and love the design, the Baroque design on the top there. This for me is primarily a fresh tuberose fragrance with some airiness to it. It's a very sort of bright, happy feeling fragrance. It does feel romantic, and I do mean romantic versus sexy. I don't really think about this as a come hither fragrance, but I do think about it as incredibly feminine, alluring, warm, inviting. I know there are other florals in the fragrance, but what stands out to me is tuberose, a little hint of powderiness, and just this bright, airy feeling. I do think this can feel a little mature, particularly for people that are not into florals, but it's absolutely beautiful. This is my second bottle, and I love this. Next is my fragrance of the day. This is one that is either loved or hated in the fragrance community. It's good old Blanche Bête. So, actually, I'm showing it to you the wrong way. The name is here. There's a symbol on the back. Did you all know that these bottles from this brand, you can actually spray the fragrance in here, light it on fire, and just be left with the oil? In fact, do you want to try that now? Let's try it. Am I really going to do this? Yeah, let's do it. Let's say a little prayer that I don't light myself or the house on fire. I've sprayed about 3 times. It's not really showing up on camera, but it's in there. Oh, it's not like catching on fire. Oh my God, what an interesting experiment. So let me talk about what this fragrance experience is like and then what I think this little bit that's left in here smells like. Blanche Bête is, for some people, milky. In fact, a lot of people think it smells like spoiled milk or baby spit up or something like that. For me, this is actually creamy and milky at the same time. It's like there's a thick creaminess to it with like a milky accord sort of hovering over that. There's also tuberose in this fragrance, and I forget what some of the other notes are, but for me, it smells very comforting. Oh, there's mahonial in the fragrance too, but it's a very comforting scent. It's floral, it's creamy. In fact, it gives me almost like a creme brulee type of smell without the sugariness. I don't find this to be incredibly sweet, although it is a highly feminine fragrance. Now, the little bit of oil that is left in here, anything that was light and milky and wispy in here is gone. This is definitely thick and buttery, both in scent, texture, and smell. It smells like melted butter with tuberose. I think I like just the scent in the bottle with the alcohol in it, probably a little bit better than what I'm smelling as the oil on my hand, just because I like that this is a little bit lighter in texture than the oil, which is thicker. Also very beautiful. It almost becomes a little bit gourmand in nature. I will stick with this. Some people pick up a lot of coconut with Blanche Bête. Yes, I get a little tiny bit of that, but more so just this general sort of creamy nature. In fact, if you've ever had a super creamy pina colada, I get that kind of vibe from Blanche Bête. I've talked a lot about this next fragrance. It's one of my favorites from the house of Amouage, and this is Lineage in this beautiful bottle. The easiest way for me to describe this is that it smells like the very most luxurious spa oils mixing together in the air with Myrrh and frankincense. That is the quickest way to describe this. Some days I get more spa oil. Some days I do get that myrrh and frankincense more pronounced. Some people pick up pepper in this, which I think is at the top of this fragrance. I don't really detect a lot of pepper. It just smells very clean. It reminds me of the color of a bright blue sky, the feeling of freedom when you're like, if you've ever been on a cliffside, looking out at ocean waves pounding against the cliffs, that sort of airy feeling, and then it's anchored by the depth of the myrrh and the frankincense in the fragrance. It just smells super divine, super chic, very unique. I've never smelled anything else like this. You have to try this. Up next is my beloved Chinatown, which has made my top 10 list every year since I've started this channel. This is from Bond number 9. I've talked about great memories I have associated with this fragrance. Walking in the cold air in New York in a younger part of my life, living my best life, hanging out with my friends. This is such a beautiful tuberose, and I think it's cardamom that's the spice in here. It has a little bit of spiciness to it. I would say this smells a tiny bit incensey to me, and I'm not sure if that's because I associate a certain kind of incense burning with my trots through Chinatown in New York, and maybe my mind is imagining that. And then there's sandalwood in the base of the fragrance. I feel like there's also some stone fruit like apricot or peach that I always forget to mention, but it's like this sort of sweet, floral, spicy, incensey, sandalwoody fragrance that is a stunner for me. I get compliments when I wear this in the house. I've gotten compliments on this out of the house, etc., etc. This is everything to me. I'll go next to Ambre Vanille from Laura Mercier. Laura Mercier also makes makeup. I have a number of Laura Mercier beauty products. Love them. These are now made in a different bottle. So this is one of the older bottles. For me, this is one of the most beautiful, like fruity vanillas that comes across smelling like a coconut icy. And I'm talking about the ices that we had in New York when I was growing up. The little coquito man would come, they were called coquitos. Little coquito man would come around with the cart that had the metal bins in it, and coconut was one of the flavors. And he would scoop that out, and it had this really cool feeling in your mouth. I feel like this is both warm and cool. The coconutty aspects of this, I don't even know if coconut is in the fragrance, but that part of it smells yummy and edible and cool. And then there's warmth from the vanilla. And I also feel like there's some sort of fruity nuance here, maybe something like an apricot or even raspberry. And I find this incredibly beautiful. Another unique fragrance that I haven't found. Some people have said that this smells like Latafa. Is it Latafa Yara? I have not tried that fragrance in the pink bottle. If you have tried it, let me know if you think it smells like this, assuming you have smelled this too, of course. I will miss this bottle when it's gone. You can see that I'm nursing it. I've had this probably for 4 years, and spray it sparingly because I love it so much. And I'm really worried that the new bottled version is not going to smell the same. I know that's a silly fear, but yeah, that's where I'm at. Next is a fragrance that had a popular moment on YouTube and then just somehow not very many people talk about it anymore. I think it's having a little bit of a resurgence because I've heard a number of channels sort of mention it recently, but there was this lull there for a time. And this is from Jovoy, and it is Remember Me. One of the warmest, like kindest. If a fragrance could be kind, this is kindness in a bottle. But it's a fall fragrance, is what I was going to say at the end of that phrase. Oh my gosh, it is so beautifully spiced, and the spices in here are ever so subtle. I think this is also cardamom and maybe nutmeg. It smells like the spice that you would put in a tea, like a chai tea, but a very subtle version of that. I believe there's a heavy dose of vanilla in the fragrance, if I remember correctly. There's a slight lactonic feel to this fragrance, meaning it smells a little bit milky. And I believe there's also a tea note, if I'm not mistaken. But the effect that it gives is warm sweater weather. Warm sweater weather fragrance, cozied up by the fireplace, watching the snow fall outside. You've got a really fluffy sweater on that has a turtleneck or a cowl neck, and you're wearing this under it, and you're feeling pretty and cozy and silent. You're practicing silence as you watch out the window. Beautiful fragrance. Remember Me. Love the name of it too, which can evoke a lot. I haven't talked about this fragrance recently, and I haven't worn it recently, but I do love it. And it is Rosendo Mateu number 6. Tells you right on the plaque the notes that the perfumer wants you to experience: jasmine, sandalwood, and musk. This is a super pretty, very easily wearable, very light. Well, it's not a light musk. The musk is fairly pronounced, but the tone of the musk is light in nature. There are heavy musks, like I talked about in part 1. Narciso in the white cube has a heavy, thunderous, ominous musk. I love it. This is a very sort of light musk in terms of the tone and texture. I think there are soft edges to this and this beautiful, very delicate jasmine undertone in this fragrance that I think makes this highly wearable. If you're interested in exploring this house, and if you felt like number 5 was too much like burnt tires for you, I love number 5 as well. Try this one. This one is a little bit easier going on newer fragrance wearers or people that are newer to the fragrance hobby. It's much more tolerable and very pretty, gets complimented as well. Who remembers good old Issey Miyake from the 90s? I don't remember exactly when this came out, but I associate it with my college years, which was like 93 to 97. And I had a friend in college that wore this when it first came out, and boy, did I think she smelled amazing. I remember her coming into the room. We were getting ready to go out dancing for the night. A bunch of our friends of ours in college, and she was wearing this, and I thought I want to be like her one day because it smelled so amazing on her. This is one of the most popular ozonic smelling fragrances of the 90s. It smells like the freshest laundry with a perfume tone to it. Not like laundry sheets, but maybe like the humid air that comes out of like a dryer vent on a building, mixed with maybe some purple florals, perhaps some violet, some white florals, a hint of fruitiness, and a bunch of like airy lightness. While the notes feel light, the fragrance feels heavy. It has a density to it that I think allows it to linger long and project across the room. It is very unique. You know when you're smelling Issey Miyake. It's one of those. I find this to be a really iconic fragrance. I'm not super in love with the bottle, except that it represents that era of my life. If you're not familiar with this one, try it out and see what you think. Actually, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know anywhere that you can really sample this. If you know of some place that sells a sample, please drop it down in the comments. This is from Trussardi. It's called Limitless Shopping. That's the nickname. There's a longer name. There's a whole line of fragrances that have these like greyhound heads on them. The reason I picked this fragrance is, first of all, if this isn't the most divine, greygey color ever, ever. I could wear entire outfits just in this color. I could design my entire house in this color and hues of it. This fragrance reminds me of the beginning of fall, not deep into the fall when it's gotten cold, but the very first hints of fall when it starts to cool down just ever so slightly and you're feeling fall vibes, but you're not ready to quite put on heavy sweaters and coats. Maybe you got your long sleeve shirts on. This is the mood of the early fall. It has a beautiful crisp apple notes. Well, it's crisp and it's also sweet. So let me say that. And it has honey in the fragrance. So some people have described this as smelling like, or maybe I'm the one that described it as smelling like shampoo. And it does. It's like a dense shampoo smell with added touches of honey and the apple at the top. And those are primary players for me. I find this to be a happy, vibrant fragrance that puts me in the sunniest, happiest of moods. This is a very sort of frolicking fragrance, despite that it has honey, which can be a heavy note. I think it plays very nicely in here. Here we have a fragrance that I think fell flat of people's expectations from this house. This is Love Delight from Amouage, another one with a beautiful, where's the camera here? A beautiful bottle that kind of has almost like a flat suede feel. And I love this like beigey peachy tone on here. Amouage bottles are beautiful. You've got the magnetic caps on them. They all have this shape, the women's line anyway, with different colors. Anyway, this is another one of my favorites from Amouage. Some folks pick up a very distinct, I think it's ginger that's at the top of the fragrance. Sometimes I do, and just usually I feel like it is bordering on being like a gourmand floral. For me, this is a creamy, soft floral with some hints of spices and some brightness, I believe, from either the gingers. Oh, y'all, it is late in the day. Pardon me. Ginger. We're going to create a new note called gingers. Comment down below what gingers should smell like. Anyway, from the ginger and or some citrusy notes here. I find this to be happy, easygoing. This is the kind of fragrance I want to wear when I want to feel feminine, but in a light, easygoing, and very non-offensive way. Some of my florals can be very bombastic and loud and kind of offend people, so I have to be careful when I wear florals. My husband loves florals, so that's an easy reach when it's just he and I hanging out. But this is one that I think is great for public spaces when you want to have just like this delicate, creamy, slightly floral, slightly citrusy, very, very small hints of spice in here. Just delightful feminine fragrance. One of my easy reach vanillas, although I don't reach for it often because I also have this unexplainable association with this being a sophisticated fragrance. This one is one that I could dress up and wear for a night out on the town, or I could just wear it running errands. This is from Maison Francis Kurkdjian. This is Gentle Fluidity Gold. I went through the Alexandria's fragrances dupe of this. So I went through a bottle of that and knew that I loved it and purchased the full one. And they are very, very similar. So if you're interested in this scent profile and you don't mind a dupe, check out the Alexandria's fragrance one. They killed it. This is fabulous. It is exactly what the name implies. It's gentle, it's fluid, and it has this kind of gold texture to it. This is one of the warmest vanillas without moving deep into gourmand territory. It has a juniper berry note. It's comforting and sophisticated at the same time. This gets subtle on the skin but lasts a long time. So it's one that if you come in for a hug, you're gonna feel the warmth and beauty that is gentle fluidity gold. It's easygoing and very inoffensive for any occasion. It's quite beautiful. If you haven't tried it, give it a sniff or check out the dupe and see what you think of it. I have to be in the mood for this next fragrance, but when I am, boy, is it fabulous. This is Dolce Amalfi from Xerjoff. I have described this before as smelling like quintessential juicy fruit gum. That sort of banana-esque smell with some spices. This one has clove, and I think it also has either nutmeg and or cinnamon or something like that. It's like very, very subtle fall spices combined with that amazing sort of powdery, juicy fruit gum. Like when you open the wrapper and the inside of the wrapper has a little bit of powder so that the gum doesn't stick. That smell. And I believe there's apple and amber in the fragrance. I don't remember what else, but it has this beautiful depth at the same time smelling a little bit spicy, happy, bright, substantial. You can wear this any time of year. I really do associate this with a beautiful fall smell. So if Limitless shopping is a beginning of fall smell, this is later on into the middle of fall. We're not quite into like angels share territory yet, but we're getting there. And this is great for when you put on your light sweaters. And maybe you pulled out your riding boots, especially if you are in the Richmond, Virginia area. Put your hand up in the comments if you like to wear riding boots. Let us know because it was a thing here for years. As soon as fall hit, everybody pulled out their pumpkin spice latte and their riding boots and they let their hair out long and would curl it kind of like this. And you'd see all the ladies all around Richmond looking like that. How did I get into that? Dolce Amalfi, fabulous, very projecting, very long lasting, bright, happy, fruity, spicy, depth. Lots of depth in this fragrance. This one made it into my top 10 last year and I think surprised folks. People either love this or they just don't get the hype. I get the hype. This is Victoria's Secret Bare, the original. There's a Magnolia version that I have and I really enjoy. And why am I forgetting the third version that came out? Rose, Bare Rose, which is also very pretty. This is a second skin fragrance. What I mean by that is it smells like a your skin, but better, like something light that you put on, like you're just smelling like your best self out of a shower. It doesn't smell soapy though. I believe the floral note in here is violet if I remember. So it has this crisp, almost shampoo-y purple smell to it, along with mandarin, which lends this juicy brightness, and there's sandalwood in the base. All of that amounts to me to a fragrance that smells fresh. It smells happy. It smells warm at the same time. For a long time, I swore there was vanilla in the fragrance because it has a warmth to it, even though violet is one of the primary notes that I think is very appealing to me. This is a quintessential, easygoing, everyday fragrance that is crowd-pleasing and just never lets me down. It's beautiful, and I love the bottle too. Of the Delinas for Parfums de Marly, my favorite is DELINA EXCLUSIF. It just captures my heart. Gosh, a beautiful, very sophisticated rose and vanilla fragrance. There's brightness in the fragrance, I think from citrus. I want to say there's a touch of lychee here as well. And I forget what else. I think there's some woody notes and there's this very sophisticated powderiness in the fragrance that is just the right accompaniment to the rose and the fruity nuances in here and the vanilla without taking over. Like sometimes powder in a fragrance can really like overwhelm it and then powder is the primary thing that you're picking up. Here it's just like a beautiful wraparound to the other star players. It's like the beautiful fluffy coat that is worn by the other primary notes in the fragrance. Long lasting, highly feminine, very mature, very beautiful. Speaking of mature, let's go to Honor 43 from Amouage. I had the original Honor, loved it. I think it is absolutely beautiful as well. I didn't need both because they are very similar. I like that this one has just a little bit more depth. So Honor itself, the original, beautiful for like your summer and spring weddings. Beautiful bridal scent, heavy on the florals. It's not heavy feeling, but it's heavy on floral notes. I think that one has gardenia and tuberose and jasmine all in one, and I think this one does as well. The original Honor is a little bit more airy and light. This one feels a little more grounded, like appropriate for a wedding in the very beginning of spring, just as it's starting to warm up and maybe the depth of fall. Beautiful. This is very clean, crisp, heavy white florals. The florals in here are much heavier in texture than the Honor regular ones are. And I forget what the notes are that add depth to this, but it's a little bit heavier and denser than the original Honor, but a white floral bomb of a fragrance, divinely beautiful, highly feminine, gorgeous bottle. How pretty is that? Even I was surprised that the next fragrance made it into the top 100. It fought with another 13 from Le Labo, which I didn't think I liked and then fell in love with when I purchased it. And I debated whether to put another 13 in the place of this one, and this one won, and I'm going to tell you why. This is 312 Saint Honoré from BDK Parfums. This didn't get a lot of playtime when it was released. Very few people liked it, and I can see why, but it is beautiful for me. I describe this as smelling like cement when it's poured and it's drying, with some very subtle floral nuances to it. And there's something very nostalgic about that scent to me. It also smells like concrete when it's humid and wet outside, like it's rained and it's very, very humid, and concrete is letting off its steam. The smell that that gives, it also has that sort of molecular smell of like ambroxan or other notes that smell like pencil shavings. It's that plus the wet cement plus something that is a little bit like L'Eau Papier from Diptyque, if you've tried that one. It's very light. It's very simple on the skin. I wouldn't call this feminine. I wouldn't call it masculine. It's very sort of neutral. This reminds me so much. The memory association is of me walking into our art building on my high school campus. It was made of glass and concrete, and it was absolutely glorious, the space. I loved being in there. I felt at home in that space. I felt like I could be as creative as I wanted to. And the concrete in the building would heat up through the sun coming in from the windows. And there was this like smell in the air that is just, I can't describe it. It's like concrete that is drying down or wet concrete in a storm. And it has that nostalgia for me. So that's why this one won out over another 13, which I also at this point adore. Speaking of a wedding scent, I associate this next one with a very bold bride who doesn't want to be dainty. She wants people to smell her, but she still wants to be floral and gorgeous. This is Accento Overdose by Xerjoff. I love this gold leaf impression. It's not real gold leaf, obviously, it's just painted, but it gives the impression of real gold leafing. I forget the exact florals that are in the fragrance, but it is a beautiful white floral with some fruity nuances. The fruity nuances in here are like the distant smell of honeydew and cantaloupe melons mixed together. And there's also something a little bit crisp and green. So it's crisp floral, slight greenness, a little bit of like distant melon fruit smell. Maybe there are some woody tones as well. Divine. Hugely projecting, long lasting, very, very beautiful. I will say this is one to sample first. Some people didn't love the greenness in this fragrance. For me, it's a very sort of subtle undertone rather than a primary player. This is one of my top floral fragrances. Absolutely love this. You've probably heard of Tribeca from Bond Number 9. Do love this bottle with the animal print on it. And I love that it's like a creamy white tone rather than just pure white. People have described this as smelling a little bit like Baccarat Rouge. And I do think it has some of those tones in the opening, but this is its own distinct fragrance. It has some of that same sort of woody airiness of Baccarat, and it has some gourmand touches. I believe it's hazelnut and I want to say coffee and or chocolate, but something that smells slightly gourmand woven through, that's sweet, that's warm, that's enveloping, along with the airy facets of it. There's a sort of creamy, I want to say vanillic base to it that is divine. This is one of my favorite winter, fall fragrances, early spring. I would wear this in the summer too, but it reminds me of being cozy, but in a sophisticated way. This is the fragrance that I would put on when I wanted to go out, but still smell cozy. Really, really beautiful and alluring. I've talked about this fragrance, and I don't remember if it made my top 10 this past year, but it has made it in the past, and I still think it is divine. Shuncoin. Shuncoin. I think is how you say it. Shuncoin. I was pronouncing it Shunquan for the longest. Thank you for being gracious about that. I think it only comes in the smaller 1.7 ounce bottle size. I know it doesn't seem like a big dent, but I'm about here on it. And for me, that is a lot with this big collection. Oh my gosh, this is just comfort in a bottle. It reminds me of a spa day. If LINEAGE has spa oils, this reminds me of the feeling of being at a spa. It doesn't smell like spa oils at all. It smells like comfort, relaxation, being in a zen-like state. I feel like there's some kind of creamy coconut here, maybe sandalwood, perhaps something powdery. This is the smell of calm, cozy luxury. Beautiful smell. It occasionally will appear on Joma Shop. Right now, I think they have testers on, at least the last time I looked. But check it out. This one will be on sale sometimes for like 100 or less. And it's so worth it. Such a beautiful scent. Here's a little gem that I fell in love with. I want to say in like the 2010s sometime. I don't even know if it was out then or if I'm imagining this time period. But this is from Kenzo. How cute is this little bottle? It is called Le Monde est Beau. The world is beautiful. The story is I used to have a mini of this and I loved it and then wanted to find it again years later as I got into this channel and forgot what the mini was called because at the time that I enjoyed it, I wasn't into fragrance enough to be thinking about houses and names. I just know I loved fragrance and always had a tray full of fragrances on my counter, right? So then years later, I was on Fragrance Net perusing the new arrivals and this beauty was on there and I snatched it up. If I remember correctly, I know there is an herbal note in here, basil mixed in with the warmest of florals, perhaps some earthy greenness. This feels at the same time whimsical and fairy-like as well as grounding and comforting. It's like a familiar smell from a land that you've never visited, and the land is luscious and tropical, but you're in a clearing. You're not in the depth of the forest, right? You're in a cleared space with the beautiful smells of nature surrounding you, along with this sort of basil floral beauty. Hard to describe. If you can find this, and what I just described, crazy as it may seem, is appealing to you, get your hands on this. I believe I picked this up for $30 or $40, somewhere in that range. I don't know why people hate on this next fragrance. I find it so beautiful. Well, let me be honest. When I first tried this, I thought it was just okay and I wasn't sure what all the hype was about. However, when I wore it out in the wild, in public spaces, and got lots and lots of compliments on it, I got to see it from everybody else's perspective. My husband loves this. My friends love this on me. This is Jean Paul Gaultier Label, the original. I do have the Parfum version, I believe it's called, whatever the Intense or Parfum version is. I have that one too. Beautiful date night fragrance. This one is known for its, I don't know why I pulled this out. Like I'm pulling out a cap. Let me leave that right on there. It's been described as like a cooked pear scent, meaning it's a very sort of sweet, thick, delicious pear with vanilla. And I believe there's also a little bit of leather in the fragrance, although I can't say I pick up any leather. This feels like a perfumey, cooked pear, and vanilla fragrance. And what I mean by the perfumey part is the smell of department store perfume counters, like that general generic perfume smell. I want to say this also has a little bit of a musky tone. I don't know if there's musk in the fragrance, I don't remember, but it has a tiny bit of a musky tone. But the pear and the vanilla combo in here are spectacular for me. It's very long lasting and very projecting. The times that I have worn this fragrance, it lasts on me the entire day and it projects even beyond me getting nose blind to it, because I will get nose blind to it. People in the room around me can smell it and compliment me on it. Last year, I purchased Highline after much deliberation, and I'm really glad that I did. This is the closest that I can get to Gap Grass. If you remember that smell from Gap, I don't know if it's back in stock. I think one of you said that Gap is now smelling that again. Smelling that again. Gap is now selling that again, not smelling it. Well, people in the store are smelling it too. I've told you all the stories about Highline in New York. If you're not familiar, look up Highline New York. This smells like fresh grass, happy citrus, brightness, summer skies, sunshiny days, frolicking around. This is a very happy, subtly green, grassy, grass is a green smell, but it's not like a pungent green smell. It's a very uplifting fragrance. That's what I would describe this as. Also long lasting and compliment getting. This smells really good in the air to other people in the room. Then we have by LM Parfums, Sensual Orchid. Ooh, this smells like one of my favorite smells. This is so freaking good and very sexy in a very fun, flirty way. There's a vanilla base. In fact, you know what this reminds me of? This is the grown-up sister or cousin of Ambre Vanille. So if this one is the more youthful, girly version, and I find this to have some complexity to it, so that's not fair to you, but we're just gonna say this is the youthful, flirty version. This one is very much ready for a night on the town. This is date night ready, but it's gonna be flirty and coquettish. This one's gonna play a little bit hard to get, yet playful, and drive her date crazy because of that. Deep vanilla with a light, airy, sweet cotton candy orchid smell. I feel like this also has some fruity touches in the background, but a sweet vanilla, sweet, playful vanilla that smells unique, except it could be related to Ambre Vanille. Fantastic. I guess it's a Xerjoff kind of day. I know when I put the list together, I was looking at my fragrances and thinking about them by house, like which ones from this house am I interested in? Even though my fragrances aren't organized by house, but somehow my brain was thinking like that. So this is a newer one from Xerjoff called Herba Gold. I do love this sleek, almost like mustardy yellow, beautiful color. This does have similarities to the original Herba Pura. What I like about this fragrance that makes it better for me than Herba Pura is the summer fruit smell in here. So this is another one that smells a little bit like honeydew and cantaloupe and maybe even strawberries, and perhaps there's a few cherries in this fruit bowl all mixed up. There's a sort of happy feeling to the fruits in here, and there is a definitive musk that surrounds that fruit bowl. It's not quite as intense in the muskiness as the original Herba Pura, but this is musky. The musk is musking. If you are not a musk fan, this one may not be for you. I happen to like it. I think it's really beautiful. This I associate with early spring. You know, when you get the first few days of really warm weather, you're feeling alive again. You're walking out and letting the sun hit you on your face, and you're anticipating having your best life ever this spring. And maybe you're going to plan a vacation for the summer since it's warm. You know, you're just in those vibes. That reminds me of, or this fragrance rather reminds me of that Very, very happy feeling. I'm also including Vert Désir from Veronique Gabai, a house that I recently fell in love with, like in the past couple of years. Love these bottle designs. I find them so sophisticated. What I love about this fragrance is that it smells minty and fresh. It's very, very appropriate for like the depths of summer or in the winter when you want a fresh feeling, even though it's cold. I forget all the notes here, but I want to say there's something in the range of either pure mint or something else fresh that gives it like this toothpaste freshness to it without smelling like chemicals in your toothpaste. It's like the most natural freshness ever. I don't remember if there's musk in the fragrance, but as I'm smelling it, I would describe it as having this very delicate, super thin layer of musk in the background while the mint notes are at the front. And perhaps there's some slight citrus in here accompanying the mint, but I just associate this with freshness. If you've ever smelled a mint julep, and enjoyed the freshness of it. That is the feeling that I get from this fragrance. Really, really like this for the depth of summer, particularly, or for any time that you just want to anytime you want to smell clean and fresh. I forget the notes in this next fragrance, but it really blew me away when I smelled it. This is, and I've smelled both versions. This is Jean Paul Gaultier Divine or Divine, and this is the Le Parfum Intense version. I've smelled the original. I have a travel spray. That smells beautiful too. This one, I sprayed it in my hand. All right, let me try to describe this. Don't judge me. If you've ever curled your hair with a curling iron, the steamy smell that comes off of the heat that is formed between your hair and the curling iron, if you could make that scent into a good smelling perfume form, there is something like that in this fragrance. You just have to trust me that that is a nice smelling scent and not the burnt smell of hair being curled in a hot curling iron. Just interpret that in a good, happy, light, airy way. I know that there are some kinds of florals in here, some light, bright, soft floral nuances. There's also something that is a little bit creamy. I even smell, do you like the way that toast smells? There's something along the lines of lightly toasted bread and at the same time, it smells like a fresh breeze on a spring or summer evening. I will probably describe it a completely different way next time, but that is what's coming to mind for me right now. For me, this is a pretty unique smell. This bottle is absolutely outrageous with the pointy fembot Madonna boobies and the big old Kardashian booty, but very unique fragrance. I really enjoy this. I believe this was also in my top 10. It's certainly one of my favorite fragrances and a crowd pleaser. Like when I don't know what else to wear and I want to be crowd pleasing. I don't want to just smell okay or nice or pleasant. I want to smell good. This is an easy reach, Tom Ford Soleil Neige. This is some citrus, easygoing florals in a beautiful vanilla base. I've described this as sunlight through trees, like shimmering through trees. Neither one of those three accords punch out more than the others. I think that's what makes this so special. It's equal parts happy, bright citrus, beautiful, gentle florals, and comforting vanilla. Easy reach fragrance where you know you're going to smell pretty and crowd pleasing. I have not tried the new Parfum version. If you have, let us know in the comments what you think. I went really bananas for this fragrance the summer that I purchased it, and I still think it's pretty darn good. Leisure in Paradise by Simone Andreoli. I mean, I describe this as like the tropical heavens opening up and angels and sunbeams coming down and shining on you. Creamy coconut, papaya or other tropical types of fruits. It has a sweetness, like a nectar sweetness. I want to say there's vanilla in the fragrance also and like a hint of musk. And it is divine, tropical, mature, sweet, creamy, just fantastic. Not a lot of people talk about this fragrance anymore. I have a backup bottle of this, or do I? Or did I? I think I gave that away in a giveaway. Did I? I had two backups. Maybe I have one. Anyway, this is from Guerlain Terracotta. Leisure in Paradise may be either early morning or early afternoon frolicking on the tropical island. This one is your glorious resort dinner fragrance. Also has what I think is some creamy coconut, and I don't remember if coconut is actually in the note structure or if I'm imagining that, and it has both white and yellow florals. I smell jasmine, and I smell like creaminess of frangipani. It smells warm, it smells golden. This is a fragrance that really warms up beautifully on your skin. It smells like sun-kissed skin topped with tropical florals and a little bit of coconut, and it's divine, very mature. This one is probably more appealing across age groups. I feel like this one is for the mature ladies and gentlemen in the crowd. Saffron Lazuli has made it into my top 10 lineup for a while now. Was it in my last top 10? It certainly was the years before. Quick association, I've said this very many times. It smells like both juicy fruit gum and spearmint gum combined together with the smell of a worn-in leather coat. And there's something really comforting, nostalgic about this fragrance for me, and immensely sophisticated in the air. This has a royal, regal presence that is just undescribable. Give it a shot, super long lasting. This is from Carolina Herrera, the Confidential line. All of the bottles that look like this that she produced are long lasting and projecting and really beautiful. Very, very soft leather, like a feminine leather with those gum smells combined. And it just does something for me, like in terms of memories. Do you all remember Calyx? This is the original Prescriptives version. It's now made, the formula is now made by Clinique. I've tried that one and it's very, very, very close to this, but it's not identical. I describe this as a very fresh smelling green smell with some fruits in it. Other people pick up very heavy fruits like melon fruits here. I feel like this smells green and cleanly metallic, and I have great memory associations of this fragrance because a friend of mine in high school wore this. I couldn't afford this at the time. I didn't even know this existed. And she would wear this when we got together and just smell so fresh and commanding. Green freshness. Like if you could deconstruct a plant smell down to its pure green essences without the earthiness, that's kind of what this reminds me of. One of my best special occasion fragrances. It's in the same league as Shalimar and Le Lion from Chanel, but it's got its own flair and smells different from them, yet similar. Like cousins in a similar family. This is Hail Bop from Tiziana Terenzi in this gorgeous bottle. This is black tie affair type of deal. There's something like a lemon and cinnamon at the top that give it both like a zestiness and a little bit of like zing and spiciness. And I believe the base is mostly vanilla and amber, if I'm not mistaken. And it gives the same feeling for me of like depth, maturity, class that Shalimar does without the parts of Shalimar that are difficult for me to handle. I feel like Shalimar turns a little bit animalic on me and a little more powdery than I would like it to. This has none of that. This stays pure vanilla amber masterpiece with some brightness from the citrus and a little bit of spiciness. And it's so, so beautiful, long lasting, projecting, and very unisex. You know, people criticize the shoes from Carolina Herrera. I don't care. I think they are super duper cute. This is Good Girl Blush, and it is basically citrus. I think there's a rose peony combination in the middle and a soft musk in the base. And I love this. This is a crowd pleaser. You smell fabulous in this, fresh, clean, girly, feminine. The smell of the fragrance looks like the color pink with a little bit of citrus splashed on top for this very sort of like fresh, modern feel. I think this is a very easygoing, happy, day-to-day wear fragrance while still having a little bit of oomph to it. The delicate floral middle of this combined with the citrus, I think is just really, really easy wearing. If you haven't tried this, next time you're in Ulta or Sephora and they have this out, do give it a try. Spray it on skin, give it a minute to settle down, and see what you think about the mid and the dry down of it. In the past couple of years, I've gotten into Kate Spade fragrances. I've liked, I think, everything that I have tried. I have 3 of hers, and this is the one that I want to feature. It's called Sparkle. And I ended up getting a full bottle. I had a smaller one and went through most of that and just knew I had to have the bigger bottle. This has like a cotton candy sweetness, or there's something gourmand smelling in here. It's sweet, slightly like pink floral and a little musky, and just smells like the epitome of femininity, but in a youthful way. Whereas like Terracotta has a mature, grown feeling to it. This one, if I had to associate an age with it, I would say it smells like it's mid-30s. Like it's self-assured, but it's still in its youthful glory, if you will. Very pretty. Smells like maybe the color of my nails with a little added vanilla to it. Happy, crowd-pleasing, very easygoing. I need to go ahead and get a bigger bottle of this one because I think I am down to maybe the last quarter of this. This is Tom Ford Metallique. So I've told y'all a lot of stories about what this fragrance smells like. It's so good. Vanilla as a base has a powdery texture to it, and it does smell like if metallic smell, like the smell of thunder combined with metal shavings, doused in feminine perfume with a powdery touch and a vanillic base. This is so good. It is very, very classy, really mass appealing in the air, wears well on you and projects well. While I think this is a feminine fragrance, it's also one that I think that gentlemen can pull off quite well and just has a uniqueness and an air of confidence and assuredness while being inoffensive and pleasant to the nose. I think some people don't like this and I just don't understand why, because it is very divine to me. Speaking of divine smells, Musk Chamal from Armani Privé. When you talk about aldehydic fragrances smelling clean, this takes clean to a whole new level. But it doesn't get obnoxious in its clean nature. It is like luxury soap with soft wraparound musk and is glorious. This is a person in the finest, most well-constructed, where like every stitch is in the right place. The dimensions are perfect for the person's body, a suit. like a fine suit, just showered, put on their best smell, and they're heading out of the house. The cleanliness and beauty of this is just, it's beyond. It's beyond. It doesn't smell like soap, but it smells divinely clean. You got to try this. Musk Shamal. This fragrance and I have been friends for a number of years. This is actually my second bottle of it. It's Clean Skin. I've been rocking with this fragrance for forever. It is one of the quintessential Your Skin But Better fragrances. It has a muskiness to it. Some people have described this as having a leather note. I think there's leather in it, but I don't smell leather in the fragrance. It's a really clean second skin musk with this beautiful warmth to it. I believe there's a praline note, if I'm not mistaken. There's certainly something very sweet, like just a subtle hint of sweetness and clean skin that has warmed up smell. I don't know how to describe this except to say it is magnificent as a second skin fragrance. Easygoing, warm. It's called a floral musk. I know there's floral notes. I don't remember what they are. It just smells like sweet, warm, comforting skin, and it's beautiful. You know, I had to put another Tiziana Terenzi in here. There's actually maybe two more. This one is called Vele, which in Italian means sail. So Tiziana Terenzi and her brother Paolo Terenzi sail apparently a lot. My God, this smells like summer fruits again with like the melon, the cantaloupe and melon type of freshness. I want to say there's peach or something in that direction in here. There are green notes, like creamy greenness. And then, of course, some musk. Not as heavy as some of the other musky fragrances that the Terenzi family makes, but this is one of my favorite fragrances. I feel like this was also in my top 10. It makes me feel like I'm living my happiest, most fulfilled life in a summer white flowing dress. Happy, fresh, vibrant, sweet, and green at the same time. Another one to definitely try out. Unique. I haven't smelled anything else in my entire collection or anything that I've sampled that even comes close to how this fragrance smells. Yum Pistachio Gelato from Kayali. It has the notes on the back: pistachio gelato, hazelnut, sweet rum, whipped cream, marshmallow, cotton candy. I lean on the last three. I talk about this smelling moussey, like the texture of shave cream. It doesn't smell like shave cream. It doesn't smell barbershoppy at all, but the texture of this fragrance to your nose is how mousse feels in your hands. That kind of smell, like a whipped mousse or shave cream. It's so sweet. It does have like this ice cream vanilla background smell, and it has an airiness to it. This fragrance feels both airy and thick and moussey at the same time, which is hard to describe. Another unique smell. I haven't smelled anything like this. I was going to say it comes close a little bit to like the same gourmandy feeling that you get from Ambre Vanille from Laura Mercier, but this one is even thicker and deeper and denser. I really enjoy this fragrance. Love the color of the bottle. Raved about this next fragrance last year when I first purchased it. Giorgio Armani My Way Nectar. Do like the pink cap and the bottle itself. And I love that this fragrance has the classic My Way fragrance, like the tuberosy background, but it has this beautiful, fresh, almost like aquatic pear note. This smells very aquatic or watery maybe even, and it's sweet and just divine. The opening of this is my favorite part. The mid is fine and the base is okay, but the opening is so beautiful. I wish the entire fragrance life smelled like this, but it was one of my best, one of my best new release purchases of last year. I'm gonna swing back around to Tom Ford Soleil Blanc. Quintessential, magnificent summer beachy smell without smelling like suntan lotion. Some people do feel like this smells like sunblock. I don't think so at all. Coconut and creamy white florals is what I get from this fragrance. When I smell this, I picture those white buildings on the hillside of Santorini in Greece. That sort of beautiful summer tropical vacation smell. I mean, I don't know if Santorini counts as a tropical locale based on its latitude on the planet, but that like wealthy tropical smell. That's this. La Vie est Belle, oui. This is discontinued. I don't know why, because I think it is probably my favorite flanker. I don't know, Intensament might be, maybe this one. I talk about being in an elevator in New York with a woman who was wearing this and me being super shy to ask her what she was wearing because I'm ridiculously introverted and shy and don't like bothering people in public. But I ended up asking her before she got off the elevator, and she said, the new La Vie est Belle. She didn't know what it was called, but it was this one at the time with the sort of burst of gold, whatever you call this on here, the motif. The fragrance smells like the original La Vie est Belle. I would say with the fruity aspects of this maybe amped up, there's a deep sweetness to this alongside the purpley florals. I want to say there's iris and violet alongside some beautiful white florals and a deep sweetness that just makes this so divine. Again, another one that can easily be seen as incredibly like uber feminine and very appealing to men in particular. This is a crowd-pleasing scent. Another one of the best new releases from last year. You either loved this fragrance or you were like, I don't understand what all the hype is about. I'm on the love side. This is Donna Born in Roma Green Stravaganza. I mentioned that I didn't want to purchase this fragrance at first because of the green color. And I was like, how weird. Is it going to smell like a tart apple or like a Granny Smith apple? Nothing of the sort. I joke around about the opening of this fragrance smelling like world peace. Like it could stop wars because it's so pretty. Yeah, I know this has a tea note in it, but I would describe it as smelling really fresh, delightful, sweet, citrusy. And then it calms down into the usual Donna Born in Roma with the jasmine and the vanilla. Something about this fragrance reminds me of a smell of the past, maybe something akin to Pear Glacé from Victoria's Secret, if you remember that body spray and the lotion. The same feeling that I got from that fragrance, I get in this one as well, and I just adore it. It's so, so pretty. The opening is the most divine part, but it settles down into a beautiful vanilla smell as well. Vanilla floral smell. Don't nobody talk about this next fragrance. Don't say a bad word to me. This is Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. I would argue that this started the cherry craze very early on. It was a super unique scent profile when it came out. Primary notes are a beautiful, delicious, juicy cherry, a boozy note. I believe it's rum in the fragrance, an almond note, and I want to say sandalwood in the base. But what stands out to me is the cherry and almond nuances. This has been criticized and dragged through the YouTube streets because it is stupid expensive and doesn't last long. This is an over $400 bottle, the full bottle. I purchased it for about half of that, somewhere in that range, at the cosmetics company store, which is an outlet for all of the Estee Lauder brands. So if you're interested in this fragrance or other Tom Ford fragrances, okay, and the Erin line, and there's a bunch of other fragrance lines, try your cosmetics company outlet store that might be near you. Check it out. I still love this. Duchessa gives this one a run for its money, Duchessa from Gritty, but boy, do I still have a warm, happy, defined, eternal place in my heart for Tom Ford Lost Cherry. Another Tom Ford, this one is Black Orchid Voile de Fleur. This is a lot like the original Black Orchid, which I adore and could have put in my top 100 easily. This has an extra addition of other soft feminine florals. And the reason that I love this more than Black Orchid is because I remember wearing this on some dates with my husband when he was courting me, and we were looking at each other across the table all googly-eyed, and I was wearing this fragrance, and just, I think it helped him fall in love and helped me to seal the deal. So I will always associate this with my husband falling in love with me in our early dating stages, and I adore it for that. Okay, y'all, we are down to the final 5 of the 100. Again, no particular order. Santal Cardamom from Maison Lancôme. I have a lot of these bottles. I adore them all, and I'm trying to treasure them all because a lot of these are either discontinued or really, really difficult to find. This is exactly as it sounds. It's sandalwood and cardamom. And I want to say there's patchouli in this fragrance as well. And it's one of the most sophisticated, ultra complex, cool or cold weather fragrances that reminds me a lot of the glory of 80s perfumes that had a lot of patchouli in them, or maybe a lot of amber. I don't think there's amber in this. I think it's woody and sandalwood and other woody notes, along with a little bit of spice and the patchouli. And it's so freaking good on. You spray it on and you smell like you have taken a step in the past, but you don't smell old fashioned. Like it has a vintagey flair to it, but it doesn't smell old school or old fashioned. It just smells rich, deep, like this opulent, glorious sandalwood, spicy fragrance with the depth from the patchouli. Fantastic. If you can find this and you like those notes, sandalwood, patchouli, cardamom, definitely get your hands on this. You will not regret it. And if you don't like it, you can sell it quickly because this one is in high demand. I affectionately call this next one my Pepto-Bismol fragrance. You like the smell of Pepto-Bismol because I admit that I do. Aura. This is the EDP version, the Eau de Parfum from Mugler. I don't even know if this is made or sold anymore. I'm delighted to have this bottle. I have joked around that this looks like the bustier that Angelina Jolie wore in Maleficent. So this reminds me of her in that movie, and I love that movie. It is vanilla, and I forget what other notes, but I know it has this sort of minty, powdery Pepto-Bismol, kind of like a pink mint to it that it smells so good. It's super captivating. My husband loves this on me. I find it to be one of the most unique vanillas out there. And what a cute bottle. This is the only bottle that I forgive for laying on its side because I have gotten rid of a lot of bottles that sit on their side because they get on my nerves. They just take up too much space. I forgive this one because she reigns supreme as a queen with this bustier on that also looks a little bit like a crown. Love this. This is the 2021 version of Sea Intense. Deeply vanillic and super duper sweet. Heavy black currant. It's almost like a syrupy, dark berry sweetness in here, along with the vanilla and a woodiness in the base, and one of the sexiest fragrances. You know, if you want to seal the deal for the night with your significant other, maybe try this fragrance out. It is very appealing, very alluring, super duper sexy, sweet vanilla woodiness, divine. Speaking of sexy fragrances, although this one is a little bit more playful, let me go ahead and bring out the Peggy Bundy of my collection. So if you watched what was it called? I forgot what it was called. With Al and Peggy Bundy. Was it called The Bundys? I forget what the show was called. Family Affair, Family Matters? No, not Family Matters. I'll put it up on the screen because I have since forgotten what the show is called. She was tacky as hell, and she wore some wild outfits and big Texas style hair, like hair coiffed to the sky, right? But she was a sweetheart inside. This outer packaging, I don't know why it's called Wild Python. Like, what a crazy name for this. One of the prettiest tuberose, I think it's peach or apricot fragrances of ever. Very, very sexy, but in a much less va-va-voom way than See Intense. This one will get you asked out to dinner. This one will get you to the nightcap, if you, you know what I mean? This is so, so pretty. I want to say there's musk in the base of the fragrance, but it is an airy, beautiful tuberose. I talked about Tocca Florence smelling romantic. This is romantic and sexy at the same time, and I hate that the bottle betrays the scent that is inside. Definitely give this a try. Very long lasting, very projecting if you spray a lot, or you can do a spray or two and just be just fine. The most expensive fragrance in my collection, I didn't pay the full price. I probably paid in the low 300 range, and that hurt my heart to pay. But I've been eyeballing this fragrance. I had been eyeballing it for forever, and finally decided to take the plunge when I saw it on Joma Shop. Atlantide, which we call just Atlantide in the US, from Tiziana Terenzi in the Sea Star bottle. This is probably arguing with Fracca for my favorite tuberose, arguing with Michael from Michael Kors and Amouage for my favorite floral in general. This smells like the color emerald looks with a floral crown on it. So it has this really unique, distinct ribbon of divine greenness running through it with this glorious, like watery tuberose at the top. And I forget what else is in this fragrance because that's all I can think about right now. This retails for something wild, like $895. If you can find this on sale and you are a tuberose lover, this is probably one of the best on the market, if not the best tuberose. I'm still, like I said, in an argument with my other tuberoses to see who reigns supreme. Absolutely divine. Oh my God, that brings me to the end of my top 100. At least today, I reserve the right to change my mind about all of these. Some of these have been around for a very, very long time and will stay around for a very, very long time. I imagine a few of these will rotate out. Maybe we'll try this again next year. Let me know in the comments if you think this should be a long-standing video theme. Thank you for hanging out this long. If you are still here, can you drop us a flower or some kind of plant in the comments? Because spring is on the horizon and it's going to be time for us to think about those fragrances soon. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Take care.